I'm audible. So my name is Ahmad Mohsin, and I'm a PhD student at Stanford University. I just started my PhD a couple of months ago, Um and my research area is basically machine learning for optimization. Currently, I'm working on different optimization techniques for various scenarios and various environments. And I did my undergrad from NUST, as it was told in the introduction. And yeah, that is basically it for my introduction. I would like to hand it over to Ali Farooq to introduce himself briefly, and then we'll continue the session.
Hi everyone, my name is Ali. I'm currently a PhD student at ASU in computer engineering, computer systems. I have a bachelor's from NOST in electrical engineering. I was in Emma's batch. And my research is in deploying machine learning onto FPGA devices and FPGA device architectures for machine learning. So I guess to start off, we'll talk about what these positions are essentially, right? So most of you, I'm guessing, want a scholarship-based position in the US. And I'll preface that by saying that there are, by all standards, there are no funded MS opportunities in the United States. It's very difficult for you to find one. All funded opportunities are PhD opportunities. Now you can apply to a PhD with just your bachelor's degree, but you can't apply for a direct master's. You might get an admission, but you'll never get funding or like guaranteed funding. There are obviously ways to get around it, but you need at least the first year's funding will be on your own, and the rest you'll have to find yourself. Knight, Hennessy, and Stanford, see, that can work, but those are so limited. I don't want to talk about them right now, because if you apply for a PhD, there's always a way you can make it work. The chances for like a general PhD admission are better than these highly specific scholarships. So I guess I'll open up by talking about how do you find a PhD position that's being offered, right? So the first the first way is you find posts about PhD positions. How you do that is all these professors will usually post on their LinkedIn page when they have a PhD position available. And the technique for finding that is you use the Google search engine. Hold on, I'll share my screen, and maybe. Okay. So, how I search for these PhD positions on LinkedIn was, you need this modifier to just search these LinkedIn posts. You don't want to just leave LinkedIn, because then it will search people's profiles as well. You need to put this hashtag PhD positions or just PhD in these what do you call these in these, and then your keyword is going to be here, right? So, and you want to have for like the past year or something. So if you see this post, right? So if I search this, only one post comes up, and if I open this, right? So immediately you'll see that he's looking for PhD students for fall 2025, and then he'll tell you what he wants, what topics he's looking for, and then how to contact him, what exactly he wants to you to share with them. Usually they'll ask for a CV, transcript, research experiences, publications, and your GitHub if you have an active one, right? And the other way to look for these PhD positions is you go through every university you find interesting, or any university you can see where you will be joining, and then you want to look through their labs. So each research lab at a university has their own website, right? And on that website, usually they will have a post or a line saying, we are looking for PhD students to join us in this semester, so please contact us. And even if they aren't, you want to take note of labs that are of interest to you. So one thing I did was when I read papers, I would take note of like the principal investigator of whichever lab wrote that paper, and I'd go find them, and if I saw that their work was interesting or I wanted to join them in that work, I would send them an email on that. So I'll get to emails in a bit. Ahmed, do you want to add anything about finding this position?
Yeah, so mostly as Ali stated, to find professors is, I think, the most important thing that you have to do while you are, at it. So you have to go through the Google Scholars of all the professors that you are looking into to see if he's an active researcher currently or not. What is the area of research that he is doing? Does it match to your interest or not? You have to go through the university website because there are many of the professors in your field that you might miss out on. Uh, and the more professors you reach out to, the more surface area you have for your luck. So to to find a professor, I think it's the most frustrating thing as well, because I remember when I used to find professors, I was like, and I don't know where I'm stuck. Like, I couldn't find professors that would relevantly match my research interests, and if they would match, they weren't hiring or they wouldn't reply. But you have to start this process of finding the relevant professors like 3 months before your tentative deadlines of your universities, so that you have enough time to search through all the universities, all the relevant pages, Google Scholars, and you can contact different students through LinkedIn as well to ask them around that, uh, are there any professors in this field that that might be hiring, or uh, they can guide you as well. They can even connect you with their own professors as well. They can forward your CVs as well. There were some students who were Nasrians whom I contacted, and they set up my interview with their professors. Like, the interview that I received from New York University was through a LinkedIn message that I sent to a student who was under a different professor doing a PhD. So for to find a professor, you need to reach out as many people as you can. But I would like to point out here that do not randomly spam many professors that aren't your research domain, or they do not belong to your research interest. Because what happens is, then the professors, they get tons of emails, and then they start ignoring most of them. So that is bad for that is very bad for your impression as well, and for others who might have relevant skill set for that professor as well. So just message those professors whom you think you are a good fit and you want to pursue a PhD and you have a relevant research experience that overlaps with that professors. So these are some things that you need to remember while searching out professors. As Ali showed you, there are various LinkedIn posts, and you can reach out to many of the students as well. I bought LinkedIn Premium. I did not buy it. I just got the LinkedIn Premium free for some time, and I used to message as many students as possible to see if they are hiring, their professor is hiring, or any other professor in their university is hiring, because they are the ones who know everything about their university. They will tell you any professor who is hiring. And yes, mostly that is it for finding the professor. But this is the most important thing that you have to do. If you find relevant professors that are interested in you, then 50% of your admission is already done. So you need to have a very good thought, and you can also cold email professors. But for cold emailing the professors, you need to have different you need to have an email format that you need to send to all the professors, and it should be tailored to their research interest as well. That you should be adding some relevant information about their research group that you are particularly interested in, the professor so that the professor thinks that you are interested in it.
So
So
just
that
to
is
hijack
mostly.
there, so ideally you want to start looking for these positions now. Every professor will not have uploaded anything for fall 2025, but just to get an idea of like the market or like how labs are working at the moment, you want to start looking at last year's um, offerings on LinkedIn and everywhere, right? So you'll look at posts from last year, you'll have an idea of what professors are working in this field. And so that means that by the time admission season starts, which is usually, I think, October, right? So you start in October and then the deadline is somewhere in December. So by that time, you have to have an idea of how this works. So when I applied in, I believe I applied in December 2023, and I reached out to the professor I'm working with. I reached out to him in August. So you want, and he wasn't even offering positions for 2024 at that point. He was still looking for spring 2024. So I'll share the email in a bit, right? So you guys can have an idea on how to contact these professors. But this is essentially a numbers game, right? Because these professors are so flooded with emails, about only 5 to 10% of the emails you send out will get a response. And that's very disheartening and it's very tough, right? You'll be sending maybe 50, 60 emails over this season. Some people send nearly 100. They don't get a response back. So like even I sent out maybe 20, 25 emails. I got only 2 or 3 responses, right? So you need to be very dogged. You need to find very specific professors who you know that your interests align very well, who your research experience aligns with very well. And you need to write a very tailored email that immediately grabs like their attention. Hold on, let me share my screen so I can share an example. So for privacy reasons, I won't be going through the whole thread with you guys, but this is how I reached out to him first, right? So he had a post up, I think in July 2023, where on LinkedIn where he was saying, "Hey, I'm joining ASU, and these are my research interests. This is what we'll be doing. So please contact me if you are interested or if you have relevant research experience." So obviously you start out with a nice opening, right? You need to like make sure they don't think you just want something from them, right? You have to open up with something nice. Right? So he was joining, so I wrote, "Hey, congratulations on joining ASU," and then you need to talk about what exactly in their field you find interesting. And
I think so your screen is not visible.
oh, hold on, let me double check. Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay, right. So just to start again, right? So you need to start with like a good opening, right? You need to make sure the person doesn't feel that मतलबी आदमी हो बस अपनी position के लिए उसे रब्ता कर रहे हो. Because it's an illusion, right? The whole thing, these professional niceties, these courtesies, you have to follow through. You can't always be this direct. So you start with a very nice opening, right? And then you go to you talk about how your research interests coincide with their research interest, right? And then you talk about what you're doing currently. You still can't see my screen?
It's visible to me. I'm not sure about others.
Yeah,
We
it's
can.
visible now.
Your
Okay.
screen is visible.
All right. So you then mention exactly what your focus is, right? And then you ask them to take a look at your material and then reach out back to you. Now, this isn't the usual way people will tell you to write these emails. I believe the way Ahmad wrote them was he would have like bullet points in bold saying what his publication is, what his GPA is, what his GRE score is, and all that. But for a first contact, I think this is a good one. But this professor, he told me to contact him again later in October, right? So I saw him post again before that, right? And then I reached out to him again afterwards. But because I had already established that link, right? So he responded to me immediately. So let me share like the next email I sent him. So I exchanged some emails with him afterwards, and he said that if you want to join me in fall, please contact me again in like October, and then I'll talk to you again, right? So I sent him another email, and because I had already established a connection with him, it went smoothly. he wanted to interview me immediately. So let me share another one. Hold on, I have another email here. And you have to not get disappointed in how this works out for you, because it's usually they don't respond usually, and if they do, sometimes it's too late, right? Sometimes they'll reach out to you in January or end of December. So it's tough. It's tough. I won't lie, it is tough. Let me open another email. So this one is, I think, a lot closer to what the final version of my email draft looked like. So this was a professor at University of Virginia, right? So I had attended his talk a couple of months ago. He gave a talk via IEEE, right? And I followed him, and then obviously you have to give like a hammy introduction, right? I really like your work. I want to join you. I'd be honored if you take me on as VC student. This is what I'm currently doing. You need to link to any achievements you have. Then you talk about your current work. You need to ask for an opportunity to discuss your application. Don't immediately say, please offer me an admission, or please let me join your lab. You need to be professional about this. You need to say, I would like to discuss my application further with you. I've attached my materials below, and please contact me if you'd like to get in touch. He contacted me a lot later than I liked, but he got back to me as well, right? He offered me an admission at UVM. So I guess that's it for contacting professors, and then
I think I'll also want
go
to
ahead.
share, and I want
Go
to
ahead.
share a. Wait a second. Let me just share. Is my screen visible? To
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is not my email. Actually, this is my friend's email. He also got into Stanford. I do not have any emails for now, so I'll be just, because he followed the same pattern, so I'll be just showing you uh, how he used to reach out professors. So the title should be very catchy to professors if they want to open your email. This is also just a suggestion or an opinion. You can like not have this title and also get replied back to, so it doesn't matter. But this is what me and my friend we followed. We wrote our CGPA and our research papers, and then in the first paragraph we just gave an introduction about ourselves and uh, what are we pursuing and what is our GPA, and we are looking for a PhD admission at the specific university. Then too long didn't read. Like we used to have some points in our profile to show that this is the venue of our publications, and what are our academics and what is our research experience. Very short, very brief, and to the point, so that the professor can understand your whole background and like what are you interested in and whether you are relevant to his work or not. So like you need to be very direct. You don't have to write like 3 to 4 to 5 paragraphs in an email to because the professor won't read that long email. You have to be very specific about if you want to write about your research, uh, at least for the first email. And then he wrote about his academics and his research experience. And in the last paragraph, you have to write about what research you are interested in his lab, or the work that you have read about him that overlaps with your prior research experience, or that motivates you to do research in that relevant area. So you have to you have to write that in the last paragraph just to catch professor's attention and to let him know that you have read about his work and you are not just spam emailing everyone with the same email. So it should be very tailored to that specific person. So this was one of the formats that one of my friends used to reach out to professors. So you can follow this as well. So I just wanted to show that this can be followed as well. So I think Ali, you can continue with the next part. Okay.
Sure. I think I'll share the format for my resume I had when I applied, right? And I saw I saw a question. Yeah. I'll talk about these the like details of how this works in a bit, right? I'll take questions later. But I saw a question pop up. It was asking, what do you do if you don't have any research experience? I'm sorry to like ruin it for you, but you do need research experience. You need some form of research experience. You don't even have a publication. You can have worked in a lab at your university. You can have some open source projects you worked on if you're in like computer science or software engineering. But yes, you do need some form of research experience. Okay, I won't take questions right now. I need to stay focused. So I'll share my resume format that I used to apply, and then you can build yours like this as well. I believe I got this from, I think, the Harvard website. They have a repository of emails of resumes for their students. So this is what I based my resume off of, right? So immediately, this isn't the final version, and this isn't the version I use right now. But this is what I had when I applied to these universities. So your header needs to have your contact details, your LinkedIn at the very top, so whoever's seeing it can see it. So this is it generally, right? Now, usually they'll tell you not to put your high school there, but because I was still in university, didn't have much like professional experience. Obviously, in Pakistan, it's very difficult to have professional experience while you're studying. So I kept my high school in there. You have to put your internships down here. You need to put your research experience down here, whatever projects you worked on, because this again isn't standard, right? People usually don't do this, but you need to put your projects down here and you need to describe what you did. You need to show that you can work with different specializations. And once again, I will say I will take questions at the end. I won't respond to anything right now. So you have to put your projects on here, right? And you need to describe them in a way that's impressive. You need to be a little wordy about it, but not too wordy, right? Just a succinct description of what you did and how you did it, right? And any courses or specializations you do, you need to add at the end. Right? Ahmed, do you have yours available from that time?
I'm not sure, but I think so. I have the same format for now as well. Let me just download it and I'll share the screen. It's my current resume, but the format is the same that I used while applying admissions. Just give me a moment. I'll share my screen to show the format. So is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is not the resume that I used, of course, but the formatting and like the view of the resume was similar. On top, I had education, but I replaced this with NUS. And then below that, I had research experience. And you do not need to have research experience. You might have some other internship experience as well. Like I used to do research in labs during my summer. So I had some research experience, but that doesn't go for everyone who is applying for PhD. People can have different internship experiences. They can go to industry for like Coca-Cola or like any pharma fertilizers or any place for an internship. But for my part, because I did research internships in my labs at NUST, so I had research experience here, and the bullet points that I wrote here were very specific to the professors that I was targeting to, so that my CV is relevant to what my research experience is and what my prospective supervisor is looking for. So you have to understand that what kind of work he's interested in and use those words in your CV to make it more tailored to specific professors, to specific universities you are applying to. That does not need to be true. You can make some generic CV and apply it to every professor that you find, but you can do this as well. So after this, I had publications, and for my publications as well, because I had some publications before I was applying, so I put this part here, and then the next part was some, and then we had some honors and achievements, and then I had some relevant coursework as well. But like overall, this was the format of the CV that I used for applying. Like, you have to have your best part at the top of your CV. That is what that matters. If you have good papers, you can put papers after your education, or either your research experience after your education, and then projects, as Ali told. I also had projects listed, and then some relevant coursework, and then some honors and achievements. So the CV should not be more than 2 pages. Like, it doesn't make sense for an undergrad to have 3 or 4 pages of CV. Uh, it's better to have at 1 page or maximum of 2 pages of CV. It doesn't make sense. I'll repeat that. It doesn't make sense for an undergrad to have 3 or 4 or 5 pages of CV. Uh, you can remove that irrelevant stuff that the professor is not interested in, at least for your PhDs, because the professor is interested in either your papers, your research experience, or your education. He's not interested in if you have played basketball in a competition, or if you are a champion of a table tennis game, or you debate well. Like, it is a good point to have in the CV, but if it makes your CV more than 3 or 4 pages, then it's not worth it. So I think so. That is all from my side for the CV part, and we can proceed forward. Yeah, over to you, Ali.
All right. What do I talk about next? I guess GRE, right? A lot of you are probably curious about if you should get your GRE done. So right now, for like since I applied, a lot of universities have said they're no longer requiring GRE for their programs, right? But the professors still want them. And obviously this varies university to university, so it's better if you give the GRE. There are workarounds, but it's better if you give the GRE. For preparation, there is this one guy on the internet. He's called GRE GMAT, Greg Matt, right? He has some YouTube videos for free on his channel. They're really good YouTube videos, right? He has hour-long introduction to GRE exam walkthrough tips. Hold on, I'll paste the link in chat so you guys can have it. But he does great work. His guide is amazing, and if you get his, I paid for his premium subscription, so it's $8 a month. I only had it for 2 or 3 months, but honestly, great work. So if you want to like prepare for the GRE, I would say go through his YouTube videos, and then once you feel like you've understood the way his YouTube videos work, then I'd say get the subscription if you need to. I guess that's the only tip I have for the GRE, right? Give it if you feel like you need it. It's not necessary for every university. Some universities are still asking for it. Some professors especially ask for it because it helps them differentiate between students. Um, and yeah.
Yeah, I would like to add on that. I had a friend, we have a mutual friend. He did not have a very good GPA. Like his GPA was 3.1 or something, which is not very, it's not the top of the class.
Yeah,
So,
usually you want a 3.3 or 3.5 plus if you want to
yeah,
crack. Especially
for a
you
PhD.
want, ideally you want a 3.7, but 3.5 is usually the cutoff for these direct admission PhD programs. So
Yeah.
yeah, go. Sorry, I just had to add that.
So he had a 3.1 GPA, but he emailed the professor like once or twice, and the professor set up a meeting with him. The professor opened his CV. The professor asked his GPA, and the GPA was not quite good. So the professor told him that your GPA isn't very good, but his GRE score, especially in the quant, it was very good. It was, I'm not sure the total, but it was a very good percentile. So the professor said that your quant score is very good. So he just ignored his GPA because the quant score was good at that time, and now he's studying in that university. He only got one interview in one university, and within that university as well, the professor pointed out specifically his GPA, his GRE score, and told that it was very good, although his GPA wasn't good. So GRE at the end, it does matter if you have given it, and it will always provide you an edge over those who haven't given GRE. So it's not necessary to give. I did not give, but I would still prefer that if anyone wants to give and is studying for it, then please go for it. So it will make your profile stronger, as I told with an example earlier. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Next, I think is IELTS and TOEFL. So both work. You need IELTS or TOEFL. Every university will want to see your English proficiency score. There is no workaround for this. They don't accept Pakistani degrees to be English focused. So you need either IELTS or you need TOEFL. I gave the IELTS, but I would recommend the TOEFL because usually when you join these universities, if you want to be a TA, they will have some English speaking requirement, and then they will have a test. So my university has this requirement, but you need either the TOEFL or you need the ASU Speak exam. So I have to be a TA in the fall. I have to give the Speak test. It's just a hassle. So I would recommend give the TOEFL, but I give the IELTS. Haven't you any tips for prep? What did you give?
Yeah. So I gave TOEFL because Stanford only accepts TOEFL. It does not accept IELTS. But I think so that is the only university in the US that does that. Or maybe there will be that I'm not aware of. For TOEFL, I think so. You have a total of 120 marks with 30 marks each section. There is no in-person exam. Like everything you do is on computer. You're speaking, you're listening, you're writing, you're reading. Everything is on computer. You don't have to sit and speak in front of a person or anything. Uh, and for the listening and the reading part are quite easy, that everyone does well. The speaking part is in TOEFL is that you don't have uh, the gap to make a mistake, because if you make a mistake, the computer won't give you another chance to rectify it. Uh, you have to be on point, and for that you need to do practice. So what I used to do was I used to stand in front of the mirror at least 2 to 3 days before the test, and I used to just speak in English with myself to just have good fluency in English, and I should be very vocal and I should be very eloquent while I speak, because my marking will also be done by the computer. Uh, it's only rechecked by the examiner if you go for a rechecking. So you should be very eloquent and you should be very clear. And you should make sense of what you are saying. It should not be very relevant and to the point to what they ask, but they'll be checking how you speak, and if you're confident in what you're speaking, that is what they check. And then the writing part, people take it very easy. People think that writing, we can write anything and we are good to go, but people score the least in the writing part. So you need to practice that. TOEFL has a lot of writing material available on their website as well, on their official website as well, and the internet is just filled with practice tests and different writing paragraphs. And I would anyone who wants to give TOEFL instead of IELTS, he should focus on writing. He should know how to write very briefly, very to the point, specific, and use very good words, very good grammar, and everything should be on point for the writing part as well. You have to be very considerate about that, uh, about the writing part. You uh, you should practice it before going the speaking part and the writing part as well. Please do not take that easy, because universities have a cutoff in every 4 sections. Because like if you want to be a TA in my university, your speaking should be more than 26 out of 30. They will not see your overall IELTS score is greater than 110 or 115 out of 120 if you don't have a speaking of 26 or more. They'll ask you to retake the TOEFL. So there are specific sections that they want a certain threshold to be passed. They don't care about listening section, even if you score 20 out of 30. But if you score less in the speaking or the writing section, they might ask you to reappear in the TOEFL. So you have to go through that as well in each of the universities. Mostly universities have a cutoff of 24 in each section out of 30 or 22. Some might not have a cutoff. They'll just say that your overall TOEFL score should be greater than 80 or something. But my university had a cutoff of 26 out of 30 for the speaking part. So, and TOEFL is of course very expensive, so you won't get another chance, to spend to waste the money on. So please practice writing, because it's very strictly marked. Because people think it's very easy, you can write anything because the paragraph is in front of you and the questions asked are also very simple. But they are basically checking how you will answer those questions. And also writing more doesn't mean that you are writing good or you will get more marks. You have to be very specific and to the point. And you'll understand everything once you start preparing for TOEFL. But start preparing for TOEFL well before the university deadline so that you have all the scores. And also, I think so, it takes $25 or $20. I'm not sure, to send TOEFL score to each of the university. So it's also you get 4 free, and then for every other university that you are to above the 4, you'll have to pay a fee of $25 to send the TOEFL score to. And I think so most of the universities require direct TOEFL scores, so you will have to send them there. So before giving your TOEFL, you have to have the university list, the professor list. You have to have those finalized, and then have prepared TOEFL as well. You have to give TOEFL, and you have to have a 2 weeks of gap at least before the university deadline, because TOEFL scores come out usually 2 weeks later after the exam, if I'm correct. So you have to manage these deadlines accordingly. So you have to plan well before the deadline for the TOEFL. And again, I'm speaking, it's all computerized tests, so you won't get another chance if you make a mistake, especially in the speaking part. So I guess that is it for the TOEFL part. If you have any questions, I'll answer them later at the end. Yeah.
The next part I think I like to talk about is the interview itself, right? Because each professor does these interviews their own way, right? They'll ask you specifically when they have to set up an interview with you. They'll ask you if they want any material for you to cover. But usually it's best if you prepare a slideshow, right? Like a brief slideshow that details your profile and your work and your projects, right? And then you want to, and whatever you mention in these slides, you need to be up top on, right? You need to be fully caught on, because they'll ask anything to try and trip you up, right? Let me go into slideshow and I'll share my screen. Right. So this is from my interview with University of Toronto. Right. So I start out with this background, and like I talk about my university and my high school stuff, And then I with my achievement, I have this competition win. I put this in here. And then I go to my publication, what I've worked on. Obviously, if you don't have a publication, you have just research experience, you can just mention your research experience here. But I had this publication, so I put this in. My current work for my undergraduate thesis, and then I just go through some projects I did for throughout my bachelor's degree. Right? These don't have to be big projects. These are my semester projects. None of these are like huge projects that led to publication. These are all semester projects. But he really liked them for some reason, right? So my freshman year, first semester project, third semester, fourth semester, right? So you just need to put this in. So usually they will ask for samples. So a professor at UNSW I was talking to, it didn't end up going anywhere because he didn't have any positions or funding at that time. He contacted me, I think, after I'd already accepted an offer at ASU. But when I talked to him, he wanted a writing sample from me, right? Like a report for a semester project or something, just to see if I could write. So usually when they set up an interview, they'll tell you if they have anything specific they want from you, like your writing samples or product reports or presentation, or if they want anything for you to cover in your interview, right? One thing I will ask you is please, anything you mention in the presentation, you must know, right? You cannot just put a half remembered thing onto it, or if you only like barely participated in the semester project, you were in a group and you say, oh, I already did this, and you put this on, and if the professor asks you a question and you can't answer it, that will reflect very poorly on your admission status, right? That will not get you anywhere. And if you don't know anything, please don't make things up. If you don't know something, tell the professor. It's like if it's something you already did, tell him, it's been a while since I worked on this. I'm not familiar with this at the moment. It's been a while. And if if it's something you haven't covered, right? So my professor asked me in my interview something about cache coherency, and I hadn't taken a computer architecture course during my bachelor's degree. So I told him I have no clue, right? I haven't taken a computer architecture course. I will take one when I get to ASU, and he was fine with that. But please don't make things up. That is absolute no. That will ruin your image in his eyes. He will never give you the admission at that point. Right? It's just embarrassing. Just don't do it. Ahmad, you want to take over from it? Oh, one thing to add. Just from my side, for prep, what I would do is before the interview, I would go into Google Meet or Zoom, right? I would start recording it, and I would present the presentation or the slides as if I was presenting to the professor, right? And I'd watch that back again, right? So I would record it and then I would watch it myself. And I know it's like very embarrassing to watch yourself speak. I don't like doing it at all. But you have to go through the flow. You need to watch how you speak, and then you need to improve on that. So I prepped, I think, thrice or two or three times before the interview. So just letting you know the tips I used. So Ahmad, go ahead.
Yeah. So let me share a sample of my friend's slides. Again, it's not mine, but this is the slides that he used to present to his professor while he was giving the interview. So it just started with the introduction about himself. That is basically the one that he wrote in an email to introduce himself. Then he wrote about his research experience or his work experience that he had starting from his first year to his final year or after graduating, which labs he worked on, if he had a job, what job he did, and what were the outcomes of his research. That is what matters the most. It does not need to be a paper, but what you learned from it, you should be able to quantify it, or you should be at least able to tell the other person that this is what you worked on and this was the outcome of the work that you did. So that outcome is very important, because once you are writing the SOP as well, after you mention your research experience, you have to tell that what you learned from it, what you worked on, and what was the outcome of it. It does not need to be a research paper, but at least something that you might quantify, or something you might be able to write down in words and tell it to the other person. And then he started about his research experience. This is just to tell you about like how he had many papers, so he just picked out the most important parts of of his papers, and he just explained those in very briefly directly to the results, but how he got to the results and what were the different results that he worked on, and what was the research that he was working on. So, like, this is all about his research. He discussed his research, and the professor asked several questions about his research, about his assumptions. Why did he use this? Did he not use that? And what was the motivation behind using this? And no, there was a very happy discussion between that prospective advisor and uh, and his research. And then again, he just showed the results, because that is what the professor was interested in. That what were the results that you got, and then he asked, the questions about his results, and this was again an extension of what he was doing. So this is all research experience, or if you don't have any research experience, you can add different projects that you can showcase to the professor, and professor might like any of them. Like, it would click him, and he might understand that you are the person he needs. So these are again all the projects that he did, and then again at the end he told that why Stanford, what are the future goals again, and then a slide about what makes me human, what I do beyond research. So, like, just a healthy discussion between professor and him. So again, I'm telling you, as Ali also told you, to make slides before the meeting so that you can be to the point, relevant, and you don't miss out anything that you did and you wanted to tell your professor and you weren't able to tell because you forgot that during the interview. So you should have the slides. And I think all my interviews, professors, they preferred slides. Once the interview started, you can ask the professor that I have made some slides about my research that I have done. If you want that, I can share the screen with you, and we can go over those slides, and we can discuss my research, and then we can discuss your research as well at the end. So this is how you give an interview. After introducing, you ask him that if he wants to see the slides or if he wants to have a general discussion with you. So every professor has his choice, but in my case, all the professors wanted me to show my slides to them, my research, uh, and what I was working on, what I was interested in. And then at the end, they told about their research, and then I told them that yes, I like that research. How do I connect my previous work with the one that they are doing currently, and just have a healthy discussion with them. And after research, it does not need to be all about research. Then you can ask about the university, about the policies and how they go over the PhD. Do they have lab meetings? How many other students do they have? And what are they working on? And what do the professors expect from you? And then you can ask them that how many students they are planning to take this year or this quarter or this fall. So, like, these are some questions that you need to engage with your professor during your interview. You need to show him that you want, that you are excited to work with him, and and you're excited about the area that he's working on. And your undergrad research is mostly telling the professor that you're capable of doing research, or at least capable of doing independent work if you have projects. That is what your professor is mostly looking for. He's not interested in the work that you have done, because once you are in the PhD, he'll be expecting a different level of work, a different amount of work, a different direction of work. But this is the basis of telling the professor that yes, you can work as a researcher, you can work on projects, you have creative thinking, and that on the papers do not quantify that. You can have any project that can demonstrate that, any internship experience that can demonstrate that, anything that can demonstrate the professor that yes, you are able to think, work independently. And because professors want students mostly to work independently, they'll direct you, and then they'll expect an outcome from you. It's not like they'll be sitting and writing the code with you. So that is uh, for the interview experience. I guess if Ali wants to add something, or we can move to the question answers.
Yeah, and another thing I'll add is professors are not just looking for like your if you're able to work or not, they're also looking at your personality, right? The way you talk and the way you present yourself and the way you work. Because this isn't just like an admissions interview, this is also like a job interview. You'll be working with him very closely for like the next 4 to 5 years, right? You like maybe there will be days you'll be in contact with him for 5 or 6 times a day, right? You'll be working with other PhD students in his group. He'll ask you to TA his classes, mentor his MS students. So your personality, the way it shows up in this interview is also very important, because your fit in that lab is ultimately the deciding factor, right? So if you have a very good, strong technical profile, but he doesn't like your personality, and someone has I wouldn't say weak, but not as competitive of a technical profile, but he really likes your personality. He thinks you'll be a very good fit and you'll be great to work with. He'll obviously prefer the person with who he thinks will be better fit at his lab, right? So that's also a factor that you need to consider. Obviously, not something you can control, but something to know, something that's good to know. I think at this point, uh, the only thing left is like the personal statement. Because I've already gone through like the entire admissions process at this point. So for your personal statement, yes. Let me pull mine up. Ahmed, you wanna take over from here? I'll try to find my.
Yeah. Okay. So for the first, I don't have a personal statement currently, but I'll just share how to write a personal statement, at least in my experience. So I just downloaded 4 to 5 publicly available personal statements from MIT. I'm not sure, there were some MIT PhD personal statements, and those personal statements were 2 pages long, and they were very specific to work. Like, you don't start with I was born here and then I was raised and then I started playing this and I'm a good swimmer as well. This is not the personal statement a professor is looking for in a PhD. You just give a very brief introduction about yourself in your statement, 1 to 2 lines, maximum 3, and then you start to talk about your research or your projects, or or the work that you are doing, or the work that you are interested uh, in your professor's lab. So what I did was, I my first paragraph was about my first research experience in the lab, and my second paragraph was about a paper that I worked on. My third paragraph was again a paper about something that I worked on. My fourth was also a research experience in the lab and a paper, and the fifth was about the professor, uh, that why I was interested in his work, what are the papers that I read, what were the key things that I liked about that paper, and why my previous research is relevant to his work, and then the last 2 lines about why this university, and mention some professors at the end. Like, every professor that you mention in your recipe, you have to write something about his work that is relevant to your past experience. So uh, every paragraph of my SOP was in the same format. It was like I would start with the research problem or a research statement, then the work that I worked on that paper, like 2 to 3 lines about how I solved the problem that I was looking into, and the last line was the outcome of that problem, or how outcome of my research, and then what were the pros and cons, like how could I make this better, and then I would connect that line to the next paragraph. So, like, it should be very coherent, but it should be very research focused, very project focused, or like it should be work related. Like, there are some SOPs for undergrads that you see on the internet that is very different from a PhD SOP. Uh, so yeah, that is mostly from my side. But again, I'm telling you, you have to see those SOPs, especially the ones that are available on the MIT website. They're very, very good. They're very specific, very short, but very to the point. So I think that's all from my side. Ali, you can share your recipe if you.
Yeah, I'll share. Let me share this. Hold on. Right. I'll walk you through this. This is from my application to University of Virginia. This is also 2 pages long. I wrote this in overleaf. You don't need to go over the top like that, but I did. Let me zoom in. Right. So obviously, header at the top. You need your contact details over there. And first paragraph, obviously opening. Describe your degree, what your field is, what degree you want to pursue at the university you're applying to. Some more background about your work, your experience, more just fluff over here. To talk about your internships, your research experience, your any achievements you've had. This whole page is just me tying my research into my internships and my research experience into my final year project. I mentioned my publication here, what I'm working on. And then obviously you mentioned the professors you want to work with. So I only mentioned 2 professors at UVA, Professor Mercy Stan and Professor Kaju. I don't know his name, but Professor Zhang. So these 2 professors were ones I wanted to work with. I had gone through their papers, right? And I knew which subfield of their lab, not just field, but you need to know the subfield of the professor you want to work with. And I mentioned that I really quoted their papers over here, right? I cited them here. Closing paragraph. This is generally right. So I also got this this format from the same place Ahmed, right? Obviously, I did some editing myself, but this is what I used, right? I got an offer from UVA, right? So obviously it works. I believe Ahmed, the yours was similar too, right? I remember reading it. So like the format and like structure of the
Yeah.
personal statement is the same.
Yeah, it's mostly the same.
Okay. And some universities will ask you for other smaller statements. These can be very annoying to work on. I will tell you that. There will be stuff like your diversity statement or what you bring to the table or like your experiences or stuff like that. And that can be very annoying. I'll try to see if I have anything. Be work easier on be easy on the use of AI, right? It's been, I don't know, 3 or 4 years since ChatGPT came out. Anyone can tell if this is a ChatGPT written piece of work. It's not that hard to identify AI written tones. Please only uh, sparingly use AI, maybe for some formatting, or maybe ask it to review it for you, right? That's always a very good option, is to upload your personal statement to an AI tool and say, please review it and like give me tips to improve this, right? That's an acceptable way. But asking it to generate whole paragraphs is not the way to go for it, because immediately whoever reads it, especially these professors, because they deal with students on a daily basis, they will immediately be able to tell if your statement is AI generated. And obviously this is not professional, goes against a lot of ethics to use AI for this. I would recommend to not do this. Right? So for example, right, so for Canal, I won't be sharing that on my screen, but they asked how do you like a sort of like diversity based personal statement, right? How will you contribute and foster an inclusive diverse. That's a very annoying thing to work on, especially if I'm a STEM student. I didn't pay much attention to any of these things during my undergraduate degree. I was focused on my courses and my internships and my research work. I didn't pay attention, but you have to write these, right? So I would recommend, think on it. Don't half-ass them, because I'll tell you how a PhD admission works on the other end, right? Your application goes into the system, right? Each professor goes through the applications and picks students they want to keep, right? And usually if you've already contacted the professor beforehand, if he's interviewed you before you've applied, they will know your application number. They will ask you for your application number, right? And then they will simply control F in the list of admissions and they will pick you out from there. And after that, there is an admissions committee, which is usually professors from that department and some admin people. And they will go over all of these picks that these professors have brought, right? Not everyone makes the cut, right? So no part of your application is irrelevant. Every part of your application is important. please do not neglect anything, because anything can be the deciding factor in your admissions. And I think that's it. That's the whole admissions process from start to finish. Oh, and if you get an interview with the professor, please ask them for a fee waiver for the application. Applications can get very expensive. Each application can go from $75 to $125. If you have a positive interview experience with the professor, please ask them for a fee waiver. They usually have one or two that they can hand out per admission season. And that's it from my side. Anything you want to add, Ahmed?
Yeah, so that is a very good point raised by Ali, to ask the professor that if they can provide you with the waivers, it would be very good financially for you. So and mostly professors are easygoing, so they'll hand out the waivers to you if they can, of course. Some universities don't allow. University of California will not allow you waiver at any point throughout the application process, but there are some universities that will. So I guess that is all from our side. Now we can ask questions one by one.